Hello, everybody. My name is Laura Packard, and we are Americans for Contraception on our IUD Express Tour. We're here for awareness, education, and advocacy on your right to contraception because we must protect all forms of birth control. So we're here with a giant IUD because we're facing a huge threat from Republican lawmakers and their extremist allies. On today, the anniversary of the Dobbs decision, we are one radical Trump-appointed right-wing Supreme Court decision from having our freedoms stripped away. 8 in 10 voters support our right to contraception, but Republican senators, including Marco Rubio and Rick Scott, blocked that in the U.S. Senate. And extremist right-wing legislators in Tallahassee blocked Florida's right to contraception vote. So we have great speakers here today to tell you more. And first, I would like to introduce Jack Porter, Tallahassee City Commissioner.
Good morning. My name is Jack Porter, and I'm a proud Tallahassee City Commissioner. On behalf of the City of Tallahassee, I would like to welcome and thank Americans for Contraception for bringing this incredible 20-foot inflatable IUD here to draw attention to the reproductive health care crisis that we face here in Florida today on the anniversary of Trump overturning Roe v. Wade. And I want to extend a special welcome as well and thank you to the incredibly brave Melissa Farmer, whose heart-wrenching story you'll hear about in just a few minutes. 2 years ago today, the Dobbs decision sent shockwaves across the country. On that day, Roe v. Wade, which had been protecting women's rights to control their own bodies for nearly 50 years, was dismantled. In fact, the blood, sweat, and tears and work of millions of women and our allies that went into a multi-generational fight for our reproductive freedom seemed to vanish overnight. And one man was responsible, and that man is Donald J. Trump. And that's not just my opinion, it's his too. He has bragged about how he, and only he, is responsible for killing Roe and denying health care to women across the country. And what's worse, what could possibly be worse? My home state of Florida was ground zero for one of the nation's most out of touch and cruel attacks on our health care and our women with the passage of their extreme abortion ban. By overturning Roe, Trump unleashed extreme attacks on reproductive freedoms in state after state. Right now, women in Florida live under a draconian abortion ban. That means access to abortion is cut off before many women even know they are pregnant, and well before many critical tests for safety and viability can be conducted. Ron DeSantis may have signed it, but let's be clear, Florida's extreme abortion ban is because of Trump. Because of this extreme abortion ban, it is more crucial than ever that we protect access to contraception. It's one of the only ways we have left to decide if and when we want to have a family and to prevent dangerous reproductive outcomes. The bottom line is this: it is a fundamental right, and Trump is attacking it. Ironically, in what is proclaimed to be the freest state in America, many of us have never felt more trapped. But Florida didn't used to be like this. We were once a state of freedom and of keeping other people out of our business. But now, Florida's abortion ban inserts politicians into doctors' offices and between what should be them and their patients. Women across the South are left with next to no options, forced to travel hundreds of miles to receive care or face the dangerous and often life-threatening consequences of their pregnancies. And if Donald Trump is elected, it is only a matter of time before our entire nation is suffering under an abortion ban. We must fight to ensure that our country is a place that values freedom, where women can not only get the abortion care they need, but access to contraception care as well. As someone with an IUD, the idea that Trump could restrict access to contraception is terrifying to me personally. Women across Florida know that these are not just empty threats, they're real, and he has plans to follow through with them. Donald Trump and his extremist allies have plans to strip away more and more of our rights, and I think everyone understands what's at stake here. We must stand together, fight back, make sure that our voices are heard, because we know that our future, our rights, and our lives depend on it. At this point, I'd like to introduce our very own Nikki Fried.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here on the second anniversary of Trump's overturning of Roe v. Wade. We all remember where we were on that day, and today I will reflect on where we are now, 2 years later. The Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade created chaos in our medical system, in our legal system, in the homes of every American planning to start a family. That chaos was caused by Donald Trump, and today we are living under one of the most extreme abortion bans in the country. These extreme bans are now in place in over 20 states across our country, creating a national health care crisis that has spiraled out of control. Women have been turned away from hospital rooms, sent to court to plead for permission to receive medical attention, or forced to travel hundreds of miles for days on end just to receive care. But many women can't afford to travel or take time off of work to receive their reproductive health care that they need. If a woman is bleeding due to pregnancy complications or a miscarriage and doctors aren't allowed to help her, what happens then? And if this is the damage that has been done in just 2 years, imagine what would happen if there was another 4 more. We're already seeing the signs. First, it was abortion, but they didn't stop there. Today, Republicans are not just restricting access to abortion. They're coming after IVF, birth control, emergency health care. Just the other week, MAGA Republicans in the Senate voted down legislation to protect the right of IVF nationwide. So I stand here before you today in front of this giant IUD. May it serve as a reminder about what is at stake in this election. We are one election away from a national abortion ban, but we are also one election away from making sure that that never happens again. Who has called for punishment for women who have abortions? That would be Donald Trump and Rick Scott, who has voted against the right to contraception and IVF. But only one thing stopping extremism from taking over is people like me and it's people like you. People who believe that government should have nothing to do with these decisions. People who believe that trained doctors should be allowed to make and decide what care is needed for their patients, not politicians. People who simply want the choice, because that is what freedom is all about. Having options and having a choice. That's not a Democrat or Republican idea. That's an American idea, and that is what we are fighting for. Florida is on the front lines of this fight, and we are going to work every single day between now and November to take our rights and our freedoms back. With that, I'm going to turn it over to another fierce fighter in this fight, Talitha Edwards, to share her story.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Talitha Edwards. I'm a local doula and advocate here in Tallahassee. And these issues facing us today have many intersectionalities in the space that I serve. And so it's an honor to speak with you today on the topic deeply rooted in my personal journey and my professional mission as a doula: access to contraception, reproductive rights, and their profound impacts on our entire community. As a doula dedicated to supporting mothers through their reproductive journeys, I am compelled to address a critical issue that intersects deeply in our work: reproductive rights and its role specifically in communities of color and its profound economic impact. Reproductive rights are not just about access to contraception and abortion. They encompass the right to inform choices about our bodies, our families, and futures. Historically, marginalized groups have faced systemic barriers that infringe upon these rights. From coercive sterilization policies to disparities in healthcare access, these injustices, like the one that Nikki Freed just talked about, in healthcare access, these injustices continue to shape reproductive experiences for Black women and birthing people today. As a doula, my role is to support families through their miraculous journey of childbirth, but my commitment extends beyond the delivery room. I am here to advocate for comprehensive access to reproductive health, especially in the context of systemic challenges faced by Black women and families and communities of color. In our community, access to contraception is not merely about preventing pregnancies. It's about empowering individuals with the freedom to make informed choices about their own bodies. This freedom is fundamental to achieving true equity and autonomy. Unfortunately, for many people of color, these choices are often constrained by systemic barriers and restrictive policies like the one we see. Limited access to affordable contraception and family planning services means that too many of us are denied the basic rights to decide if and when to start a family. These challenges have stark economic consequences when reproductive choices are restricted. Economic stability is compromised. For Black families and communities of color, this translates into higher rates of poverty, limited educational opportunities, and diminished career prospects. The inability to control when and how to expand our families perpetuates cycles of poverty and inequity. Contraception is not just a medical necessity, it is a crucial tool for economic justice and empowerment. By ensuring that every woman has access to contraception of her choice, we take a vital step towards breaking cycles and fostering economic independence. Economically investing in the reproductive rights of all communities, particularly those communities of colors and marginalized groups, is not just a moral imperative, but also a strategic one. Studies consistently show that when women can plan their pregnancies, families thrive and economies grow. It's about ensuring every person has autonomy to make choices that align with their values and aspirations. As a doula, I've witnessed firsthand the extraordinary strength of Black women and communities of color. I see the challenges they face day to day, from dismissive healthcare providers and our legislatures to the lack of culturally competent help. These issues are compounded by broader contexts from systemic racism that affects every aspect of our lives, including healthcare. By advocating for better access to contraception and comprehensive productive health services, we are also advocating for healthcare systems that respect and protect Black lives. To address these issues, we must advocate for policies that protect, expand reproductive rights. These include comprehensive sex education, affordable contraception, and equitable access to prenatal and postnatal care. It means challenging stereotypes and biases within healthcare and our legislative and government that lead to these discriminatory outcomes. Family planning is equally essential in addressing the Black maternal health crisis. As doulas, we witness firsthand how these disparities manifest in pregnancy and childbirth. Black women are more likely to experience maternal mortality and morbidity regardless of income or education levels. The stark reality is that Black women and people of color in the U.S. are 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related complications than their white counterparts. This disparity is due not just to biological differences, but to systemic inequalities and healthcare access quality of care, and socioeconomic factors, including systemic racism embedded in healthcare systems that fail to listen and respect the voices of these individuals. The same is what we're seeing in our legislature and with our politicians, not respecting our right to choose, and how coming up with these practices really affects so many different levels of our economy and our family and our community structure. Effective family planning allows women the space to space their pregnancies in ways that are healthier for them and their families, reducing the risk of complications and enhancing maternal and child outcomes. Our community has to be resilient and resourceful. We must continue to be advocates for ourselves and each other. We need to educate our children about reproductive health and rights and how to stand against these discriminatory practices. Our community organizations and healthcare providers and policymakers must work together to dismantle the barriers that prevent Black women and other people of color from exercising their reproductive rights fully. As a doula, I play a critical role in advocating for my clients' rights and supporting them through their reproductive journeys with dignity and compassion. We stand in solidarity today with all of those individuals demanding justice, equality, and full reproductive autonomy. Together we can create a future where every person, regardless of race or background, can achieve their full potential by building healthy, thriving families the way they choose to do so. In closing, let us remember that reproductive rights are human rights. Access to contraception and family planning is a matter of justice, equity, and dignity. As a doula, I'm committed to supporting each and every individual in achieving their reproductive goals and navigating healthcare systems and discriminatory practices. But importantly, we all stand together today in the fight for a world where every woman has the freedom, resources, and respect she deserves to make her own choices about her body and her future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Talithia. And now it's my honor to introduce Melissa Farmer. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Melissa. I am honored to be here in Florida to share my story. It is crucial now than ever before that we speak out, take control of what happens to our bodies. 2 years ago today, Trump's hand-picked Supreme Court justices overturned Roe v. Wade. He proudly ripped our rights from us, and despite the harm it has caused us, he brags about it today. Because of Trump and his MAGA allies, 4 million women in Florida no longer have safe access to the abortion care if and when they need it. Doctors are facing the threat of criminal prosecution for doing their jobs. Because of Donald Trump and his allies, people across the country are being dehumanized and pushed to the brink of death. I am one of those people. And what I'm about to share, my story, is directly the consequence of Donald Trump and extreme Republicans. When my partner and I learned that we were pregnant, we were filled with joy. I knew he would be a great dad. And I was so excited to be a mother. We named her Maeve. At around 18 weeks, my water broke. When I got to the ER, the doctors told us that my fetus would not survive. They told me that I was at a risk of serious infection, blood clots, sepsis, hemorrhaging, but they wouldn't give me the medical attention that I needed, an abortion, because of the law in my state. I had to sit there and accept my fate, potential death, rather than receiving abortion care. But I wasn't going to wait, I wasn't going to do that. I knew with every moment that I sat there, I was in greater danger, so we drove to Kansas. When we arrived at the ER there, the doctors told us the same thing. We were turned away again, and we were told that it was too politically heated in this environment right now to give our health care. It was dehumanizing. It was terrifying, and it was horrible not to get the care I needed to save my life. Well, also, we were suffering a tremendous loss of our daughter. Days later, in a third state, I finally did find help. I am lucky to be alive, because if things had worked out differently, I may not have survived. But I did, and I'm here today because I'd very much like to hold the person responsible to this account, Donald Trump. A lot of people that I share my story with are surprised to hear it. They don't know and they're not aware of the consequences. But do you know who is aware? Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans. Donald Trump said that these extreme abortion bans all across our country are a beautiful thing to watch. I've not always paid close attention to politics, and definitely not on the issue of reproductive freedom. I've always kept to myself and out of other people's business. That's something I... But when politicians like Donald Trump started inserting themselves into my health care, my body, my life, I started paying attention. These politicians have made it their personal mission to curtail my freedom and have made it being pregnant in this country dangerous. For a while, I didn't know how to recover from my experience. I had lost my hope for a family, my job, my health insurance, my home, and I lost the support of my friends and my community. I have been hospitalized several times since. But I knew. I felt like I had to say something. I felt like I was responsible to do something, to never have another person pregnant go through this again. It was so bad to be so powerless at the moment, and I couldn't stay like that for the rest of my life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melissa. I'm Laura Packard, and this is Americans for Contraception, and we're in Tallahassee for the last Florida stop of our IUD Express tour. Our next stop is St. Louis. And remember, we're here to protect protection. Thank you.